Oh, hey. Welcome back. It's time for another children's sermon. We're going to be reading from the Jesus Storybook Bible, and the story today is a tough one. It's about when Jesus died on the cross. And the way they tell it in the Storybook Bible is really good. It's very powerful in a lot of ways. I think you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's an important story. It's kind of the story that lives at the heart of our whole Christian faith. And we're reading it this week because in the big church service that we have on Sunday morning, our theme this week is talking about the idea of death, which is a really hard topic to cover. And so the story of Jesus' death on the cross actually helps us understand how God cares for us when we have to deal with something that difficult. Let's get right to it. We're going to read the story, and then I'll invite you to come back, and I've got some other things to show you. See you in a second.
The sun stops shining. "So you're a king, are you?" the Roman soldiers jeered. "Then you'll need a crown and a robe." They gave Jesus a crown made of thorns and put a purple robe on him and pretended to bow down to him. "Your Majesty," they said. Then they whipped him and spat on him. They didn't understand that this was the Prince of Life, the King of heaven and earth who had come to rescue them. The soldiers made him a sign, "Our King," and nailed it to a wooden cross. They walked up a hill outside the city. Jesus carried the cross on his back. Jesus had never done anything wrong, but they were going to kill him the way criminals were killed. They nailed Jesus to the cross. "Father, forgive them," Jesus gasped. "They don't understand what they're doing." "You say you've come to rescue us," people shouted, "but you can't even rescue yourself." But they were wrong. Jesus could have rescued himself. A legion of angels would have flown to his side if he called. "If you were really the Son of God, you could just climb down off that cross," they said. And of course, they were right. Jesus could have just climbed down. Actually, he could have just said a word and made it all stop, like when he healed that little girl and stilled the storm and fed 5,000 people. But Jesus stayed. You see, they didn't understand. It wasn't the nails that kept Jesus there. It was love. "Papa?" Jesus cried, frantically searching the sky. "Papa, where are you? Don't leave me." And for the first time, and the last, when he spoke, nothing happened. Just a horrible, endless silence. God didn't answer. God turned away from his boy. Tears rolled down Jesus' face, the face of the one who would wipe away every tear from every eye. Even though it was midday, a dreadful darkness covered the face of the world. The sun could not shine. The earth trembled and quaked. The great mountains shook. Rocks split in two, until it seemed that the whole world would break, that creation itself would tear apart. The full force of the storm of God's fierce anger at sin was coming down on his own Son instead of his people. It was the only way God could destroy sin and not destroy his children whose hearts were filled with sin. Then Jesus shouted out in a loud voice, "It is finished." And it was. He had done it. Jesus had rescued the whole world. "Father," Jesus cried, "I give you my life." And with a great sigh, he let himself die. Strange clouds and shadows filled the sky, purple, orange, black, like a bruise. Jesus' friends gently carried Jesus. They laid Jesus in a new tomb carved out of rock. How could Jesus die? What had gone wrong? What did it mean? They didn't know anything anymore, except they did know their hearts were breaking. "That's the end of Jesus," the leader said. But just to be sure, they sent strong soldiers to guard the tomb. They hauled a huge stone in front of the door to the tomb so that no one could get in or out.
Wow. See what I mean? That was a powerful story, wasn't it? And so here's what I want us to think about. Death is something that's really hard to deal with. And yet, there's a lot of hard times in our life that we have to deal with. And there's a lot of moments when we probably feel sad or alone or betrayed or abandoned like Jesus did in that story, right? And so sometimes, right, we feel like we're a piece of paper and there's some sort of rip in the middle, you know? Just that we're messed up, that something bad happened, that something hurt us. Our heart is broken. We're sad. We're hurting. We're ripped. And then there can be other moments that come along too that do the same thing, that rip more away from us. Parts of us just feel like they're hurting. And we can be sad or lonely and just as if there's a part of us that's missing. Especially if we encounter something like death too, right? If you have a pet that dies or a grandparent, you can feel like there's a part of you that's been torn away. But what I want us to remember is the cross. The story of Jesus dying on the cross is a story that tells us that no matter what we face, no matter where we go, that God will always be with us. That there's nowhere that Jesus won't go for our sake, right? Jesus even died for us so that we would know that when we face something as difficult as death, that God is still there. So what I'm going to ask you to do, right, as we think about putting our faith into practice, your homework for the week, is to make some little reminders for yourself that God is here. Maybe it's just a Post-it note and you put it on the bathroom mirror and on the door as you leave the house, or maybe you make some crosses like I just did and you put them on your refrigerator or on your bedroom door. Just put a bunch of reminders around your house of God being there. Because that's the message of Jesus dying on the cross for us, is that God is always with us. Even in the darkest, most difficult, most sad moments, God is there. I'm Pastor Nate. This has been your children's sermon for this week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.